Transportation for It's Your Call guests provided by Preferred Car and Limousine.
I think the two of them are the only people who know exactly what happened and who provoked who and what actually happened. And all the hype and the spin afterward is just us talking about it. So only they know how far they took it.
I think she was wrong for taking him back. You know, he was abusive, and I don't think anyone should be in an abusive relationship.
I think that she's a moron for taking him back, and I think it's extremely offensive for young girls today to think that it's all right to accept someone back who beat on you, because they're not going to change, and she is a role model, and if something bad happens to her again, the public sympathy is gone.
It's physical abuse. Like, once a guy hits you, you know, what makes you think he won't do it again?
That's what they said in person, and that's what I've been saying sitting in this chair every year that we do these shows on domestic violence. I always ask the question, why do women go back to men who abuse them? If you'd like to share your story with me, maybe you have some personal insight into this, email me at the address that you see there on the bottom of the screen, because I am really interested to hear from your perspective. We're talking a little bit about Rihanna and Chris Brown and why she would go back. Her reasons are, you know, mirroring what other women are saying as well, yes, all across the country. But the question that I wanted to ask you is, if they stay together, now what? What do they need to do to make sure something like this never happens again?
Well, the first thing they need to do is make sure they take a personal inventory of themselves and go seek help individually. And if they do that, then they can hopefully then start to figure out, okay, is this the right step for us to stay together? Because if they're not doing individual work, they'll continue to do the cycle. And then for him to make sure not only just individual work, but do intense work beyond anger management, beyond just learning some skills, but really intense. Where does this come from? Why have I been doing this? Where's this pattern? What's all connected to it? And then to try, hopefully, to rebuild trust and safety, because that's what was taken away, and that's going to take the longest to rebuild.
Now, do you guys suggest when a couple makes the decision to stay together and work on their relationship and work on the issues that George just mentioned, that they actually continue to have a relationship, or do you put distance between yourselves?
Not at all. You can't. Chris Brown has issues right now. Rihanna has issues right now. They can't be together. I think them being together is a bad move. It's a disgrace, Rihanna's part, to me, and all women who are looking up to her, because she's not being a strong woman in this situation, to me, to say the least. So I don't want them to be together. I want Rihanna to stand up as a woman and say, you know what, I need to figure some things out. He needs to figure some things out, and then maybe once we get everything figured out, we could come back together. But no, not right now.
You know, one of the things that we see, though, because we run a hotline and we get over 700 hotline calls a year, people are afraid to call the hotline because they're afraid that we're going to try to talk them out of the relationship. We're going to try to convince them to leave. And we encourage people to call. We don't have any preconceived ideas. You know, we may personally, but the way that our staff and our volunteers are trained, we don't have any preconceived ideas about what's right for you. We're going to try to help you figure out what's right for you. Because I think that fear that, you know, oh, if I make this call, I'm going to have to leave, that keeps people from making that first call to start getting some insight and some help.
And very similar in terms of what I do, where I'll get a lot of men who come in who are struggling with it because they don't want to talk about it. They know their relationship needs help, but they don't want to be blamed. As much as they need to take responsibility, they're concerned or afraid to deal with that responsibility, so they just won't seek help. And that's the difference, where if you really want to work this relationship out, you better be willing to go through all that it takes to get to that point.
And the one thing that we would say for the person on the person that's being abused is, and we'll help you with some safety planning.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
if you choose
I
to
agree.
stay with that person while they're getting some help to work through their issues, even if they're very willing to do that, you're going to need some help to get some safety planning in place.
True.
And you know what? I agree with them both, but this Chris Brown and Rihanna situation is bigger than Chris Brown and Rihanna. That's why we're sitting here and talking right now, because the whole world is watching. And I really want them to be an example of doing the right thing. There's a young woman right now who loves Rihanna, who's being beat by her boyfriend, and probably will say, well, Rihanna took Chris Brown back, maybe I can give you another chance. Or she left, so maybe I should leave. You know, unfortunately, they're being an example to the whole world, so it's bigger than both of them. So I think they both should do the right thing and separate, at least for now, until they get their things together.
There were a lot of rumors going around. They were together, they were off, they were back on, they were off.
At P. Diddy's house.
There was a duet recorded, and then that was, you know, shot down as just a rumor. Right now, you suggest that they part.
Most definitely.
But should she take advantage of this opportunity now to kind of become a spokeswoman for the cause of domestic violence? Are her actions literally going to speak louder than words?
Yes, I hope one day she is ready for that. But from what I'm seeing, because everything is a rumor form, but I heard that she changed her phone number, so now her father can't get in contact with her. So she's like kind of secluding herself. That is a rumor form. But I think she's not ready to be that role model that I want her to be, that you just mentioned that she should be. But I think eventually she will become, whether she wants to or not, because she's going to have to do an interview again one day. And that question is going to come about. And we're going to want to hear from her. Because right now we haven't literally heard from her. When you think about it, everything we're hearing is rumor form, what this person said, what that person said. Rihanna hasn't said anything, literally, since everything happened.
Well, you know, wait a second. It's interesting because you say she hasn't said anything. She may not say anything. And that's where I wanted you to comment, Wendy, from a former prosecution perspective. Does it hurt the prosecution's case if she doesn't come forward and if she doesn't press charges? Do they drop this case against him like so many other domestic violence cases are dropped?
Listen, it's always better to have the victim in the courtroom to be able to tell what happened. They are the ones that can speak the most to what occurred. They could talk about what led up to the explosion. They could explain their injuries. They could talk about the facts. But in a lot of domestic violence cases, the DA doesn't have that advantage. Why? Because, again, of this dynamic, as warped as it may be to me and others that have my opinion about why a woman would go back and why a woman would want to shut her dad out or shut law enforcement out, they do it. And that's the picture that's often presented to the DA. However, because of the photographs of the injuries, because of medical records, presumably a hospital visit where Rihanna was treated and other domestic violence victims, that information can be admitted to court as well as any spontaneous utterances that she makes. So things that she says to the police right away when they come to the scene, things that she said on the phone to people she spoke to, those are all admissible under hearsay exceptions. So the DA can move forward without the victim to make sure that the abuser and his issues get addressed through the court system.
Well, certainly this picture that we are seeing on the screen here, courtesy of TMZ, would be very strong
powerful evidence
for the prosecution.
Even without Rihanna, if she chooses to take what I perceive would be the wrong road in not moving forward, to protect herself. And also, I think the point about her being an example to other women and young girls. I mean, you're talking about the young girl who has a boyfriend who's abusive and willing to stay with him because of Rihanna.
And I think that's really part of the issue, because
it's terribly upsetting.
It would be good if they actually could work through this and be a shining example of a couple that took therapy seriously, did the counseling that was necessary, took the classes that were necessary, and then came out on the other side ahead. That would be wonderful. Anybody think that's going to happen here?
No.
No.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. In a perfect world, Lynn.
That's all the time that we have on the topic, but I do want to thank everyone for being with us. And Beth, I do want to give you a chance real quick to tell us about Laurel House and what its purpose is, because I know that I misspoke when I said it was a residential treatment house.
That's fine. Thank you. Laurel House is a domestic violence agency. We serve all of Montgomery County because of safety issues. We end up serving people from surrounding counties as well. We have a shelter, counseling. We do a lot of outreach, as we were talking about earlier, with high schools, middle schools, colleges, to help people be aware of signs of potential warning signs of unhealthy relationships. So it's a full service domestic violence prevention.
And if there were some warning signs that you'd want people to know about, they would include people who are overly possessive, very jealous, tries to isolate the individual. Unpredictable, and shows violence in other situations.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
If any of this is of concern to you and you need help, we've been giving you some hotlines along the way. Please seek help if you feel like you need it. If you have an opinion that you'd like to share with us, you can email me at tcn_IYC@cable.comcast.com. Be safe. Bye-bye.